Hey, everybody. I'm back. The world has changed so much since I was here last. So let me give a minute for people to join the room. I see there's 2 people. Oh, first of all, let me welcome you back. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, teacher. I'm redefining myself every moment of the day. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the week's transits. It's a big week. We're going to start the week with 3 planets retrograde and end it with 5 plus Chiron. So that's a pretty big deal. Welcome posted up. Thank you. Hi, Catherine. It's been a really hard time, I have to tell you, but let me introduce you to somebody. Let me find her. Hold on. Miss Lulu. Lulu, come here. Thank you. Come to me for a second. I know. We're going to get up. I know, city girl. Come here. Up the other way. This way. Yeah. All right. Meet Lulu. Hold on. I'm going to get myself seated. She is 5 years old. I'm her 4th guardian of life. Good morning, small wildflowers. I'm so happy to see you. She arrived. It's been an interesting story. Lucky died on October 4th. And on my birthday, which was October 17th, I went sadly to the coffee shop, cried the whole way. And while I was waiting for my coffee, I saw a Seahawk on the telephone post or at the telephone light, and it was cleaning itself. And on the way home, there was a feather on the sidewalk from the hawk. And I don't know if you guys know what a Seahawk, it represents the air element and the emotional, the water element. So hi, sweetheart. She's so sweet. So much more affectionate than Lucky. But anyway, when I got home, I pick up my phone and the Nextdoor app announces that Lulu's mama had passed away and that she was looking for a home. And the picture was what I'd had in my mind. I think of her as French vanilla. She's kind of like hazelnut creamer colored. And so I made a phone call. I don't even know why I did it. I was pitching myself before I even knew that, I wasn't ready. I honestly was not ready. But she showed up on October 21st. Oh, no, she showed up on the 19th for a meet and greet. And she's, as you can see, very sweet. She's got a little spice. And I decided to give it a go and see how we meshed. She came on the 21st, and she hasn't left since. Her foster person, her first 2 guardians on Earth, human guardians, died on her. And then the 3rd guardian, Lulu's a rascal. Okay, they have a lot of other animals, and she tends to get a little frisky and a little as if she rules the roost. So that's why they wanted to rehome her. And she is just really, she's very sweet. She's still a little squirrely on the walk, but we're working on that. She's very, very affectionate. So she's done a lot too. I'm going to put you down now, sweetheart. Ready? She's done a lot to help. I still am missing Lucky. There's no, I can't, that's not going away. I think we're both adjusting to our new dynamic, but literally when this year started, it was very different for me. And now, I don't want to cry. Okay. So it's a time, honestly, of complete rebirth. Okay. While the outer planets, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn are making positive aspects, it doesn't mean these aspects are easy. What it means is if you surrender to whatever's getting killed off, Pluto, whatever history comes up, Saturn, whatever Uranus is asking you to do in the way of looking at your anxiety. What is anxiety telling you about the direction you're going? Because I truly believe that The human experience is pummeled with fear and things that aren't authentic to us, and it is producing anxiety. And the reason so many children are born with anxiety is because they know a deeper truth that is being suppressed to them. And it's creating this conflict on the inside. And then we have, of course, Neptune. Neptune dissolving things, but also tasking us in many ways in its conjunction with Saturn to start to build our lives from a spiritual point of view. And that spiritual point of view is not necessarily religious, but understanding the universe a little bit better, starting to pay attention to literally the laws of science. We know gravity, what goes up comes down. And the law of attraction is absolutely the same as gravity. What you put focus in on, you will draw to you. Now, at the beginning of the year, and this is why I love astrology and I hate it, I watched that South Node go into Virgo and it scared me because Virgo rules pets. And I started praying at the beginning of the year for the first time in a long time. Now, I meditate, but I don't tend to pray for things because I believe in the law of attraction. I try to focus, and I try to send my beam up. But I felt called to pray for help, to pray for support, to pray for guidance. And I don't know if you guys remember, but my friend Jeremy from Oregon died on January 2nd. And then, my construction of my house took 2 months of complete mayhem. That was in April and May. And then Mike died in June. And then Lucky died in October. And I had a crisis of faith. Jupiter, interestingly, squaring my sun. So, was there a commercial? I try to turn them off, but it won't let me. I put them on the most conservative potential. So I apologize for the commercial. Hopefully you can skip them. So what I want to let you know is that I believe that the outer planets, this is where I'm going. Hopefully you'll hang on and follow with me. If we surrender to the deconstruction of what we have known, what we called safe, what we thought was secure, and we start to focus in on what really feels authentic to us. And this is where I go to the idea of flow, the idea of ease, the idea of the law of compensation, so that as I allow for the awareness that, what is the religious saying? When God closes one door, another door opens. And with Lulu showing up so quickly and so unexpectedly, she stopped my tears. My tears were flowing like ridiculously. And her affection is so much more than Lucky's. And yet Lucky brought me things in reflection that a normal dog might not have. I started my business because of that dog. I started trusting myself and believing in myself and wanting to provide for that dog almost the way I wished my parents had provided for me as a child. So without realizing it, I was putting a lot of healing work into that dog. And I do believe that as he came into that 13th and a half year and Neptune and Saturn started to conjunct his sun, that's reducing his vitality and eroding it. And I knew it was coming. And yet I prayed it wouldn't come. So I say this, but Lulu's bringing new things to my life and things I needed that weren't there before. And the things that Lucky brought into my life are more established. They have a flow. So it's time for me to surrender to the old and to embrace something new. Thank you so much, 145 Club. I appreciate it. Let me run back and say hi to everybody. It's been a long time. Posted up. Thank you so much for coming, Catherine. Just call me C. Of course, Small Wildflowers. I'm so loving seeing you here. Margie, La Vida Negra. Okay, and 145 Club. All right. May I ask, how are you feeling, Small Wildflowers? And how is pumpkin spice? Was it good? I agree, Small Wildflowers. Well, I wasn't ready for her. We're both like, it's weird because When Lucky came in, truly, my heart was so filled with joy. Here, there's a weird, different energy with it. Like, I appreciate her. I tell her I love her, and I do love her, but it's more of a. I feel like we're helping each other, because the thing about her, she's got a very good. She's not like damaged or shaky or anything like that. She's a little distrusting of people's leadership. Like on the walk, she's very alert. I've got to tell her I know what we're doing. But I think that's where, Lucky trained me. And now I get to take those skills into this relationship where she spent 5 years thinking she was home. First person she lived with for a year, and that person died on her. Then the second person she lived with for 3 years, and that person died. But that person was funky because she had a favorite dog that she would put in her bedroom. And then Lulu and another dog, or I think even 2 other dogs, were sequestered in another room in a pen. And then that second lady died. And then the dog that she had in her bedroom died. And the authorities came, she's from Vegas, and found the lady and her dog. Can you imagine? It's like Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher. But anyway, so Lulu was stuck for a couple of days in a house with dead people, and that happened to her twice. And then her third owner, while she, loves Lulu, Lulu's just too much for her. Lulu's a little, good morning, little grasshopper. Good morning, Lucy. Good to see you. So Lulu's a little bit much because they have a menagerie of animals over there. Cats, dogs, possums, squirrel. I don't know what they got over there. So here she is getting adjusted to her new digs. Did you like, I wanted to say, did you like the pumpkin spice? I didn't see if you wrote an answer, because I've actually bought some of those drinks in solidarity. Oh, it is? Good. I just didn't know, because I bought that cinnamon roll. A little sweet for me. She's very settled on some level. It's mainly the walk, and then I got a little pouch and some treats. So I think she's going to be, within a couple of months, I think she's going to be a really good dog. She doesn't bark a lot. She alerts me when someone's at the door. She's over, where is she right now? Lily, where are you? She's got her little bed that she sits in. Anyway, all right, you want to get to business, everybody? Because I do have an appointment at 1:30. So we have this end of the year. Okay, okay. Oh, before, one more thing I want to write down or say. At Curious, I think it's George, GEO 90. You put a comment on my November video about having a 27-degree Aries rising, and how do I like having Chiron sitting on my ascendant? That's kind of what I was referring to earlier. There's a full-blown surrender. If we think about the legend of Chiron, Chiron was a great healer and a great warrior. And Chiron was abandoned strictly for his appearance by his own parents at birth, and lived with that wound his whole life, being an outcast, serving society, but not feeling embraced. And it wasn't until he, did the ultimate sacrifice, and I think it's Prometheus that was, chained to the rock, being pummeled by, loving by the bird, because he loved a goddess. So somewhere Chiron represents surrender to the ultimate sacrifice, right? And I think that's when it's on your ascendant, or when it is in Aries, it's a dynamic that's tasking you with, who are you? Who is yourself? What is your perspective? Will you be brave, or will you just be angry? Because Aries is angry, okay? Which is why they call it the warrior. But are you the peaceful warrior? Do you own yourself in the face of the herd, the pack, the tribe telling you you're wrong, or you're this, or you're that? Thank you so much, MK. It's good to see you. This is what's being asked of us, all of us. And all the cardinals, late degree planets, you're experiencing Chiron's influence. All of the fixed, your early degrees, are experiencing Pluto's influence. All of the cardinals are also experiencing Saturn and Neptune. in the early degrees. So there is no hiding, okay? There is only a deeper truth. And that's what Pluto wants to unearth. That's what Uranus, as it's gone back into Taurus, wants to renovate and move into the future, to bring in a larger sense of literally your hopes and dreams by incorporating your history. Is your history true today? Because by definition, history is in the rearview mirror. But humans bring it into today every day, over and over and over again. So let's talk about Mercury retrograding today from 6 degrees of Sagittarius to 20 degrees of Scorpio. This is an interesting retrograde. It's most of the month from today into the 29th. And I'm just, all about the numbers, right? So 11 and 9 is 21. And I don't know why I'm just keying in on the ones, and I'm kind of keying in on the idea of Christopher Witecki's step system with the theories of the degrees and how the 1 and the 2s represent a deep theme, and the 1s representing sort of what do I love? Where am I coming from my heart? And then the 2, which is in the mastering degrees, is about what am I mastering in my intuitiveness and what I know about a deeper truth. And truth is not universal. Truth is individual. And then there are universal laws that our truth is applied to. So one person's truth doesn't necessarily have to be yours in any situation. And that's part of Chiron's surrender. So Scorpio, as Mercury and Mars have been traveling together angrily, having conversations for weeks now. Okay. And I have not been, I've not dodged that bullet either, because in my transits, I'm kind of tired of the people who want to victimize themselves to me and then ask me to hug them and kiss them and make them feel better about their own bad habits. And I'm not doing it anymore. So this is what's going to happen, because Sagittarius rules what do you believe, and are you willing to travel to a foreign belief that will expand you and bring you wealth and bounty? Or will you go back into Scorpio's energy and dig up the things that where people have victimized you and been criminal to you? Because it's time to transfer that in the sense of that was then and this is now. The herd wants to make you and pigeonhole you from grammar school all the way through your life. And especially, no offense to you fixed signs, you'll do that to people all the time. Well, this is how you are, and that's how I am. But the planets aren't allowing for that anymore. It's a new time. It's a new definition. So you're going to feel a lot of stuff coming up in this Mercury retrograde, because at the exact same time, we're going to watch Jupiter retrograde for the next 4 months, basically. November, December, January, February, into March, all the way to March 11th. Within the sign of Cancer, going through your home sign, the sign that represents how you were nurtured and how you nurture yourself, how you take on, there's history in Capricorn, there's history in Taurus, there's history in Cancer. And that's just one layer, okay? The history here is, to me, is how do I take my moon energy? How do I take my energy that is perceptive, is balancing rather than healing? Because healing indicates I'm still hanging on to a wound. I'm still victimized by it. But when I balance it, I've turned it into a tool that then sharpens my intuition and my intellect and my bravery moving forward. And that's where Chiron says, will you be the peaceful warrior now? Libra opposes Aries. Will you always acquiesce at the end of the day to make peace, even though it's not your truth? Or will you find ways to express your truth? Most people think expressing your truth means I got to get in an argument with you. I got to make you understand my truth. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Chiron thinks that's true, because Chiron's playing big time here. Chiron is about to move into Taurus and join the fixed energy that Pluto is fostering right now. And Pluto, while it's gone direct, Pluto is going to move backwards again next year for months. So we're still digging into those early degrees, 3 to 5 degrees tops that Pluto's going to move. So Pluto's really covering those first few degrees of what is really deep into my heart. What is, because the deepness of your heart will be magical, and muggles will tell you it's not possible. So that's going to happen. And Jupiter's going to go all through that house for months and months. And people within your families, people within your neighborhoods will say, hey, I don't know if that's really true. Well, that's the way it's always been. This will not affect your 5-degree Jupiter, natal Jupiter. You've already had your Jupiter return. Jupiter's going to go from 25 to 15 degrees. So it's going to square my sun, and then it's going to oppose my midheaven. So Jupiter's really going to ask me in my IC, which is actually, it's technically my fourth house, but it's very early into my fourth house. And this is further depths into what I think is the origins of my being, how I was raised, how I loved, and how I've been loved. And am I going to play to the old story? That's again the Taurus energy. Or will I allow myself to move into the future? Because Uranus wants to move into the future. This Jupiter is supported all month by the trine to Neptune and Saturn. Saturn ruling history, Neptune ruling erosion. We can erode, or we can bring an influence into our story that allows us to be more creative, more intentional, more expansive. But we've got to be brave enough to stop hanging on our story and start to tell a new story. Saturn is currently stationing at 25 degrees, and then it's going to move forward. And this is going to move direct on the 27th. So during the whole Mercury retrograde, Saturn is sitting in the sky in Pisces that rules history and transcendence. Neptune isn't even moving past 29 degrees. It's going to be sitting there making aspects to Uranus, and this particular week, Venus ruling our self-worth. Venus is in her detriment in Scorpio. So this is an opportunity to start to rewrite what makes you feel valuable. You guys have watched me a long time. I'm very emotive. I've got the moon in the first house. I cry, I get loud, I'm passionate. And many times people who like to sit in a victim energy will use my passion or my intensity of Scorpio, Mercury and Scorpio, and victimize themselves to it, and I'm tired because history should show them a different story, but they want to hang on their individual history that lessens them or keeps them small. This is going to come up for everybody. Some pattern in your personality and how you've shown up is going to be challenged. And I don't know that I would give up my passion. I don't know if I would give up my emotive way of being, because I like that part of me. So to me, it's not that I don't want to shift. It's that I'm already aware of how I'm showing up. Or is the other party aware of how they're showing up? And that's where, if things feel like they're drifting away, because we have the South Node going through the sign of work, of process, of practicality and dependability. So what is not dependable, what is not practical anymore, what doesn't take you to the North Node of your dreams in Pisces, the things that seem only attainable in magical moments, that North Node is saying, anchor that in. That's your reality. This is your old story. So there's a lot going on. Now, Jupiter is also squaring Chiron. So Jupiter is challenging our beliefs. That could show up in so many ways, because there is a strong aspect to Jupiter that's also rules. It rules the DOJ, it rules legal dynamics, it rules religion, that is a structure. It rules higher education, PhD. So these are historic ways of people seeing things and expanding things and finding value in their knowledge. Now Chiron is going to challenge that, because we are going into an intuitive world. We're going into a world where the structures are not going to be completely thrown away, but they're going to be reevaluated if they actually serve a bigger purpose. There is no true reason to learn algebra anymore or geometry. What are we teaching? I don't know. I'm not in school and I don't have any kids. So, but these old systems are going to be rewritten. So Jupiter's 25 degrees of Cancer, stationing to retrograde. And Chiron's currently at 23 degrees of Aries in those mastering degrees. What do I feel? That's the two. I really dig Christopher Witecki's basic idea of the single digit degrees representing a real sort of new energy and awareness of the sign and the planet. And then I failed both algebra. I failed algebra. Don't even think I got to geometry. I talked my way through it or something. The teenage degrees, the ones, are all about establishing what is important to your heart. What do I want to experience and manifest? And then the two is about really allowing that connection to the deeper part of your soul that's living outside yourself, holding space for what is possible that the human structure limits and suppresses. So Jupiter's got a lot to say for the next few months because Chiron is not moving quickly either. Just call me. See, I got to tell you, I had such a meltdown the other day. I fired a client because she brought up about Lucky. It came up about Lucky dying, and she started to compete with me over grief, and she started to villainize me because her dog died 6 months ago, and I didn't do anything about it, and I didn't address her wound. And I thought, you're not my friend. I don't even know your dog died, to be honest. I get to a reading, I forget. And I just got so tired of people placing responsibility on me for their emotional body that is not fair. So I will tell you, this woman could be bringing up an opportunity for you to say, I refuse emotionally to take on your story. I don't like when, I don't cringe. I actually have a Mars reaction. So there we go. And I'm a Taurus bull. So, all right, let's go on because I gotta mosey on here. Mars and Mercury. Okay. There's 2 hot days this week. Be mindful. Maybe you don't want to go to grief group on the 12th and the 13th, because now that Mercury is moving retrograde, while the 2 planets have been hanging out moving like this, now they're going to cross over again. Oh, you're so nice. See, that's so Southern. Yeah, I just can't do that. I'd just be like, don't talk to me. Leave me alone. Hi, CC Pups. I don't know where she is right now. Oh, she's laying on the floor. I don't know if you can see her. Wait, I'm going the wrong way. She's on the floor in the sun. All right, now, so Uranus is going to make a loose opposition to Taurus. Uranus has moved back into Taurus for the last time in 84 years. And it's at the anaretic degree, 29 degrees. This is really important because it's how will you take action? Will you take action intuitively? Because sometimes when we engage with people, we're engaging to get their agreement of our point of view. And if we can really recognize that in ourselves, we'll know that some people will never agree with our point of view. Why bother? That's a liberating time, and it could be super annoying. So be careful, because Mercury rules your siblings, it rules your coworkers, it rules your neighborhoods, the people walking on the sidewalks around you. It could come in a weird outburst because we have that loose opposition to Uranus. Pluto is now, okay, quickly, I want to say this about Pluto, because Pluto's finally getting its traction in Aquarius. It's feeling more comfortable, but Pluto is not going to move very far. Okay. Pluto's only moving a couple of degrees. It's having a very long transit in Aquarius, 20-year transit. So everybody who is fixed, or has planets in fixed signs in early degrees, 0 to 5 degrees, even up to 7 degrees, maybe the next couple of years is very liberating. If this is a square, that would be Taurus or Taurus or Scorpio. Then the interesting thing about Pluto square to Scorpio is it might feel just slightly easier than all the other aspects because Pluto rules Scorpio, and Scorpio is more easily tends to dig deep into things. But there will be something that comes up repeatedly. So that, and when I say repeatedly, I think it's like cleaning my new floors. I go through with the duster and then I walk back through the house and there's a hair there and there's this there, and I still got more stuff to clean up. So there's that. All right. And then Venus in her detriment in Scorpio is making a square to Pluto. Pluto is, right now, Venus is at, this week is at 3 to 6 degrees, making this square to Pluto as it traverses. And I think that this is really powerful because to me, this has a lot to do with the power that money has over you. Do you stay in jobs because you're, at least there's a paycheck, and oh no, I look at the news and everything's going up. There's a lot of deeper motivations that are going to be revealed over the next couple of years for those people that have aspects to Pluto in square or opposition. And again, by the end of the week, we've got Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Saturn stationing. Jupiter even stationed, even though it's just stationing to move retrograde. So those two planets are very powerful. Saturn representing not restriction here, but your history. And will you allow Neptune's influence on Saturn to dissolve that, to blur it, to move it out? And then next week, we'll have a new moon in Scorpio at 28 degrees, which I think is very powerful because, again, we're in those late degrees. We're looking at having the potential to plant the seeds for really coming from my heart and recognizing where potential restriction, where something that feels limiting has either a benefit to work for us because there's something better on the other side of that, or it's asking us what platform we're moving on. Because when we're moving on a platform of, I'm going to go out and get a new job, I'm going to do this, there can be an initial excitement, but then there's always a weird boomerang to scarcity when we go to make a move. We're somehow trying to move away from something versus inviting in something new. So I think that could be a deep psychological awareness. And with that awareness, we can plant in the new moon at a more effective way. And when I say effective, I almost feel like I'm skipping steps of having to jump through hoops. So when I recognize that, I don't want to move away from scarcity, I want to embrace abundance. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. It's a new world and an old world all mixed together. I thought you had me at hello. I thought you had me at hello was how it was said. Anyway. All right, let's start. Whose birthday is it? Oh, it's Scorpio. It's been a long time. All right, I've got the angel deck. I've got the Camelot deck and the tarot deck. We're going to do an angel card reading and pull one tarot card for each sign. Mostly because I need to make sure I get done on time. Okay. How's everybody been for the last few months? Queen Leo's not here. I'm a little concerned that maybe my loss of Lucky might have taken her down a sad road of her pup. I got to tell you, Lulu's she's very cuddly. She'll put her head on my shoulder. Lucky was like this. It was always pulling away. All right, Scorpio. One thing I am doing is if the angel card is upside down, I'm allowing that upside down as maybe a block to the energy. Just a little nuance there that I think might bring some more detail. Now, as I talk to Scorpio, I want to offer this because the squares to your natal planet or oppositions are actually meant to work in your favor. And I know it doesn't seem like it doesn't always feel good because I think one of the most misunderstood signs sometimes is Scorpio because they're so powerful. There's oftentimes a very soft, sort of cookie center. And I think that's something that will be coming up more is how to be strong and soft at the same time. Sounds like a toilet paper commercial. Congratulations, MK, you found a job. I hope it's a wonderful one. Scorpio, let's see where we're going. I'm not going to turn all the cards over until I pull them all. I could not be more happy to get rid of this year. In fact, I don't even want to decorate. And that's unusual for me these days. All right, Scorpio. Your tarot card for the week is looking to the future. Now, I always choose the decks intuitively. And when I look at the Three of Wands here, it's very much looking at what you want emotionally. What will flow in your life? What will glisten? And if indeed you're still waiting for a partner, because we see that coffee cup, right? We don't know if this guy's waiting for someone to get back from the bathroom. We don't know. So maybe it's time to start to look at your world with a little more flow. The challenge with the fixed signs is they don't shift. They're sandwiched in the middle. And it's like being on the middle seat of an airplane, right? You don't know which side is your armrest. But on some level, cooperation can bring something forward. So what are we doing here? All right, we have Ariel upside down and we have the butterfly upside down. Somewhere you've been feeling blocked psychically and you haven't been enjoying beauty in life. The butterfly absolutely represents transcendence and obviously transformation. But here, with this, I feel like it's, again, looking to the future, looking at things from a more intentional way. The opportunity or the obstacle is to get down to your deeper truth, okay? Here's the storm. The Lady of the Lake always represents this fight between my head. And here, I'm thinking my head is holding my history. And the roaring of the ocean underneath is like your soul begging to move forward. Please, I'm so tired of ruminating, because the truth is somewhere in the middle. And God here in the form of Fiona is saying that they're trying to help you to establish whatever this is. And I don't think it's one thing. I think it's flow. In the angel's advice, we see the power of the dragon is not in its fullest. You're not calm in your power, so conditions are not favorable. Mars and Mercury, your co-ruling planet, have been traveling together. So there's a very good possibility that there's been arguments. There's been, even seething anger underneath, and this retrograde could prove even more challenging in the respect of as Mercury moves into Scorpio and Mars moves away from it and towards the great attractor. There may be an awareness for us all, but for you specifically, Scorpio, that you are contributing on some level because you're not looking to the future. That would be what this is. You're still stuck somewhere looking at where you've been wronged. And I'm not negating any wrongs. I'm not negating what you experienced. It's just, does it serve you to continue to think about it? Therapy doesn't work. Every person who ever goes back to their childhood and tries to figure out why the fuck it happened, pardon my language, or don't pardon it because I don't really care, you're not going to figure it out. Flawed muggles, man, flawed muggles. So here we have, in the final position, the risk card and the confusion card. But basically, this is what I think is Merlina. Merlina, on the card says you're indecisive because you're not using your magic, because you're not on some level using the power of Scorpio to move your story forward. Now think about this. If Uranus has moved into the last anaretic degree of Taurus, then it is opposing the anaretic degree of Scorpio. So wherever that is in your chart, and I don't care if you're a rising sign, if your sun is at 1 degree of, well, if your sun's at 1 degree of Scorpio, then you're feeling Pluto, but because it's affecting the house. So it may not be the earthquake, it may be just aftershock, but it's there. And you're being asked to really risk transcendence. You're being asked and tasked by your own soul, not by someone else, to say, does this serve me? Yes, it was true. Yes, it happened. Yes, I got screwed. But does it help for me? Will I get revenge? Will I get satisfaction? Probably not. I need to move on. Never release. I'm not a releaser. Oh, therapy just made me insane and more victimy. And then I did a whole bunch of blow. I talked about it all the time with my friends, and everyone was like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Can't she be happy? And I didn't know my chart. And I guess I wasn't really pre-wired to be happy. Not then, at least. I had a lot of Pluto conjunctions when I was little young. I say little and I'm thinking of me in my 20s and 30s. All right. Let's go on to our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. It's nice to see people in the crowd. It's been such a long time since we've been here that I wasn't sure anyone would come back. I haven't seen Steven in forever and a day. I wonder what happened to him. You know, when you have internet friends, you don't know whether they just left the room and aren't interested anymore or whether something terrible happened to them. But wherever Steven is, you know, the Jupiterian, we're sending him love and light. Are you still there, little grasshopper? Hi, Melissa. I haven't heard from you in a long time. Hope everything's all right in your world. Are you there, little grasshopper? All right. Sagittarius, here we go. I'm not going to say them. Haven't seen him. He used to do camp, you know, and he'd be gone for a little while, but I don't think it's camp time right now. Oh, there she is. Yeah, it is really nutty, Melissa. I'm not going to lie. There's so many. I watched, okay, I know you guys think I'm a little weirdo, but, well, I'm a big weirdo, but I love watching history lately. And I was watching this documentary on PBS about Benjamin Franklin. And it was a 2-part series. And I'd already seen the first one, but I hadn't seen the second one because they don't come on like regularly. And it was amazing to listen to it and how many things were correlating with things that are going on today in the world. I mean, of course, you know, it's not the same verbiage, but the same basic ideas. I do love my history shows, don't I? And Oak Island is back on. I'm so weird. I don't know where that came from because I never used to like history, but I have always had a great affinity for colonial America. Always, ever since I was a little girl that I can remember. And also the state of Colorado. And I've only been to Colorado once. Okay. For our Sagittarius, your tarot card is Sagittarius. This is the King of Wands. This is very Jupiterian. It's very Sagittarius. But in this particular deck, we see this lion on the guy's t-shirt, right? So this is, again, where we're looking to the future. We're looking to this. It really, you know, the connection between our minds and our thoughts and what we experience is becoming more evident. And I think within that, it's tasking us to stretch, right? To really be, because when I look at this wand and all the lights that are coming up, I feel like these are my thoughts, the sparks of my ideas, the way that I think. And I need to take command of it and allow myself that broader thought. See all the map behind him? So there's a movement here for Sagittarius. Okay, the eagle is here, and Grace and Antoinette. The eagle represents integrity. It represents the connection to the angelic realm. There is a Jupiterian influence here. And then Grace and Antoinette is a card of compassion. Then we have Fiona, again, in the foundational position, and the burden card. This is self-compassion for Sagittarius. Yes, indeed. We have the goblin and the patience card. And then we have movement and Rochelle. Okay, this is what I want to offer you. The influence going on right now is polarizing for me, because some people are going to cling to structures. You have to work hard. You got to pound the pavement. You better send all those emails out announcing that you're a great administrator and my website sucks and I need you. But that's not going to get you anything. Okay. What's going to get you somewhere is actually connecting your ideas, broadening, sending them out into the universe, and having a little bit of compassion for yourself as you stand in integrity of your own vision of what will be. The eagle flies with great sight and prowess. It's majestic, because right now it's a burden. The world is heavy with this is what you should, need, and have to do. The burden is truly connecting to spirit, truly surrendering in this moment, because the ego will say no. No, if I let go of the wheel, something bad's going to happen. If I let go of the wheel, And this is the thing with the South Node in Virgo, a lot of people could be experiencing an erosion of Virgonian things, their daily activities, their work, their pets. A lot of people, I mean, literally this morning, I was stopped by a neighbor whose dog passed away. I mean, so many people's dogs have passed away in my neighborhood because the final position is Rochelle, saying that as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, there is movement. And what does Jupiter rule? Movement. Okay. So I think that this is what's going on for Sagittarius, because Mercury is retrograding in your first house and then back into your 12th house. Something's going to come up for you. I just got chills all over my right side. That is historically has power over you, psychologically somehow has power over you. It could even be a fear of some kind. When you get that Scorpio energy, there's a weird feeling of annihilation attached to it, And in the 12th house rules dissolution. Dissolution meaning dissolving something. So I think that if you have patience with yourself as you stand more in alignment with the things that you want, and you utilize these very magnificent points inside of your energy, your Sagittarian energy, first being 14 degrees of Sagittarius is the great attractor. What you focus on, you're attracting. And then 27 degrees of Sagittarius gives you the ability to download solutions and information through inspirations. The day of my birthday, I was not expecting, I had nothing but depression planned. I have run through Kleenex boxes like you wouldn't believe. But then the eagle's feather dropped, the Seahawk's feather dropped. And then the Nextdoor app, and dog was on a blue, like literally, I don't know if you can see. Hold on, let me see if I can show you. My neighbor painted a portrait of Lucky, and Lulu was sitting on almost a similar type situation. So there were things that were starting to line up. And I think that's where Sagittarius will find the most benefit. And that's not because you see it with your eyes. It's just because you feel it with your heart. You feel it inspirationally. Oh, well, I hope so. I hope not either. I knew Lucky's birth chart. I knew, he was a 29-degree Pisces, the very last day of Pisces. How is he going to make it through Saturn and Neptune's transit? He made it through the first one. He didn't make it through the retrograde. So I don't think Lucky had a chance. So I think that was his destiny all along. And if we think about Lulu being 5 years old, she incarnated somehow knowing that there would be a transfer, a changing of the guard. And I remember, I don't want to start to cry, but I was like, why is Lucky dying? And I pulled one card and it was the Ace of Cups. And while I didn't want to recognize that, it was saying new love was coming in. Lulu. And the minute, she passed, there were three, me and two other women that I spoke with, maybe even Small Wildflowers. I could put her in there too. I'm not sure if you were one of them. I know there was two others. They both saw a girl dog and one that I think I call her French vanilla. That's her kind of her coloring. So, all right, let's go on to our Capricorns, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, kitties last forever. My kitties last to be. Emmett was 19. All of mine lived to be in their 16, 17 years old. So with Lulu, I'm being much smarter and not feeding. I think I fed Lucky too much, honestly. When I think about the amount of food that I let him have, he really was a gluttonous little pig. And because he wasn't that affectionate, I always was bribing him into loving me. Lulu is not that interested. I tried to give her a little apple yesterday. She wouldn't take it. She took the carrot. All right, Capricorn, here we go. Pulling our cards. I want to reveal them all at once. It does feel good to be back in a routine, I haven't gotten back into all of mine. And these short days, I don't know about the rest of you, but geez, it's 4:30. It's like bedtime. I went to bed. It's ridiculously early last night. I had to set an alarm because I was so tired by the time change to take her out to pee. So we laid down at 5 o'clock, and I was afraid that if I didn't, I'd sleep through the night, and it was dark at 5. And so we got up at 8 o'clock, and I let her pee, and then we just went back to bed. I was like, I surrender. I think I'm emotionally tired as well, you know. All right, let's see what we have for our Capricorns. Woo. The other thing that's interesting about Lulu, I don't know her birthday at all, but she must have been born in 2020 if she's 5 years old, which would give her some interesting transits in Capricorn. Because I believe Saturn was up there and Pluto was up there and Jupiter was up there for most of the year. And that would be interesting because Pluto rules death and she's had 2 owners die on her. Isn't that weird? Astrology is a little frighteningly accurate. All right, let's see what our tarot card is for our Capricorns. Oh, you got your own card. This is literally you, the goat. Now we're going to see this could very much represent what are you unconsciously tied to? What are you not seeing? What are you thinking is absolute law? Because this woman, okay, the woman in the card, she's got her hand out like this, which makes me feel like she's in an argument going, it's obvious. And he's got his head up here like, oh my God, you know? So there's something that you're not seeing, something, a behavior or a way of being that you think is law. You think that this is just how it is. I can't change this, but you're missing something because you can't see the answer with your eyes. Now let's see where we're going. All right. We've got the spiritual teacher upside down and the fire fairy, which represents optimism, positivity, and creative dynamics. This would indicate that you're feeling a little bit, I could say a lack of energy. I could say that your spiritual teachings, the things your planet is retrograde and it's stationing. And it's about to go, through the last degrees of Pisces for the last time for the next 30 years before it comes back around. So there could be some stuff coming up where everything that you've worked so hard for lately, everything that all the Pluto aspects that were going through the last degrees of your first house could feel almost like, what was the point? You could be feeling like, you could be having a little crisis of optimism, like you've worked so hard and nothing's showing up. Opportunity or obstacle. The horse, okay, the horse is movement, and Teresa is about rest. But upside down, you're working too hard somehow. When I look at the horse, I think of the horse as a Sagittarian energy, right? On the face of the card, it talks about accepting help. I don't think that this is it. What I think this is about connecting or maybe accepting help from spirit. Again, if there's a restriction, if there is a pause, if there's something you're not seeing, if there's something repetitive coming up for you, because there's definitely things coming up that you can't necessarily, like, why does this always happen to me? If you ask that question to yourself, you're the common denominator. So somewhere, and this is not about victimizing yourself, this is about taking control of your viewpoint, because you're working too hard to try to move something out. Oh, and it might be anger and frustration. There's the wasp. The wasp is not easy. And this is the other thing I want to say. Anger is not always bad. It's how you use your anger. It's whether you turn it in on yourself, because sometimes it says, I've had enough. Anger is like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not an even exchange of energy, and I'm no longer putting up with it. Because Mystique and the angels' advice is saying to keep charging ahead, expect miraculous solutions. So this is what I want you to know. The universe does not test you. It does not lead you down the garden path and then throw a bunch of shit on the garden path to see if you learned your lesson. What happens is we don't know if we're like, oh my God, things are changing. Oh my God, things are getting better. How does that happen? Oh no. And we revert back to old ways of thinking underneath the surface. Because, the universe or people will tell you, oh, no good deed goes unpunished. So in the final position is the physical, the earth fairy. This is about grounding. And what you're not grounding is the things you can't see. This is why it's hard to be a Capricorn, because you're a builder. You want to get bricks, you want to get mortar. If you can't, you're not hardwired to say, well, conceptually it can happen. No, I want to see it. I want it to be sustainable. But there's a part of you that has to step into the co-creation with the universe to build the bricks and lay the bricks of your own emotional dynamic. So anything that you've been tethered to that restricts you or limits you is backing you up for a minute, Mercury retrograde, to see, am I really aligned emotionally to where I want to go? So personally, this year has been super hard on me, right? And I literally had thought for a while, like, am I full of shit? Is this just like, do I just have some weird voodoo magic and I can zone into people and there's no real guides? It's just, we all turn to worm food. And while I was having all that weird doubt, and I recognized it was an angry, frustrated conversation I was having, that I'm sick and tired of transforming. I'm sick and tired of being, in this constant state of awareness of the deeper crap, because there seems to be no payoff. But is that true? Or is that just where my head is turned right now because things are hard? Because I have a great life. I don't have a boss breathing down my neck. I don't have a lot of restrictions that I used to have, but I have a habit of looking for problems. Venus in Virgo, Pluto in Virgo conjunct. Is that habit working for me? Or do I now have an opportunity to transform that as the South Node hits my Pluto and my Venus, to rewrite my value and to rewrite how I feel satisfied and responsible for my own experience? All right, on to our Aquariuses, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. See how good Lulu is? She doesn't bark. She doesn't create a lot of havoc. I'm really proud of her for that. Okay, I don't know why I started with the tarot deck. She's a very sweet girl. I just think that the main thing is that she's not really experienced leadership. Like when I met her foster mom, there were just some things that I knew that I thought she would just know because she's had so many dogs, but she didn't. Like Lulu would tend to choke after she was drinking water. So I got her a slow drinker and she hasn't choked since. Little things like that. And I ordered it in pink and it came in purple. I'm glad it came in purple. I didn't really want pink. Oh, you want to hear something weird? Just call me see about Lucky and Lulu. Let me finish Aquarius and I'll tell you it while I'm shuffling for Pisces. Remind me, it's a General Hospital connection. All right, Aquarius, your tarot card is the Knight of Cups. Everything about this is making moves from an emotional dynamic. This is not about love per se, but it's how are you playing the game? Archangel Archangel Gabriel and the Deer are in the foundational position. Gentleness and diplomacy, and the communications card in the form of, this is all about Aquarius. You're very funny because you're very scientific, and you may not think you're scientific, but you think in a way that, like, you rule genius, you rule invention, you rule technology, you rule the cosmic consciousness. So you just think broader. Sometimes that can be diminishing to the mere muggle that you're talking to that thinks just like a normal person. So this is asking you to communicate with more diplomacy, more gentleness, more awareness of who you're talking and why you want it. Because here's the card of compassion and the mystery card is the choice. And you need to make the choice of having compassion for those that may not get things as quickly as you do, or don't move as fast, don't have the vision you have, or just emote differently than you do, because in the angel's advice, it's about being the queen. It's about owning your brilliance. And then, because you're not experiencing abundance by this. And the challenge of being Aquarius energy is that exile feeling of not being part of the pack, not being part truly of a connection, and yet longing for that connection. But when you're in the connection, your tendencies to think so broadly don't afford the other party their story. Because you are coming to the end of a life cycle. This is a new happiness awaits you. And the protection card, now that's a 38. The 38 reduces down to an 11, and 11 is the master number of thought. So I really think that for my Aquariuses let's think about this for a second. We've got the Mercury retrograde moving into Sag, which is a sextile, but when Mercury moves into Scorpio, it starts that square again. So there could be this, awareness that, and I want to offer it this way, because there's almost a feeling of being aware and trying to be more emotive, but not really getting validation for it, and then reverting back. Well, if I don't get validation, it feels like a continuation. Now let's think about this. We're talking about Aquarius rising right now. So you're redefining the self. Now, if you're looking at Placidus, which is very much my new prayer for y'all, because so much of that 12th house is important, and how much Aquarius energy is in that 12th house is breaking up old soul stuff in its square to, or not square, in its conjunction to Pluto. So be mindful of that. All right, let's move on, and I'll tell you the quick story. So I've watched General Hospital my whole life. Literally, it's been on the air for 60 years. My mother watched it, and I complained as a child, and then, became an avid fan. The gal at the market, Stacy, loves General Hospital, and she loves Steve Burton, Jason Morgan. So we made plans months ago to go to this fan event. Well, Lucky is the oldest child of Luke and Laura, the most famous characters on General Hospital. When I named Lucky, my dog Lucky, I didn't do it for that reason. But Luke and Laura's second child, her name is Leslie Lou, and they call her Lulu. And on the soap opera, you rarely see Lucky and Lulu together on the screen for very long, because one's always leaving the show and one's coming. So that was another sign, because Lucky left and then Lulu showed up. Luke and Laura. Yeah. Wow. Throwback. Exactly. All right. Oh, here I go. On to my Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. That was another sign for me. And then I had a client who was in South Africa, and she was on a safari. She was there for a couple of months, and she knew that Lucky, she did sessions while she was there. And the clouds in South Africa formed literally a picture of Lucky when he was a baby. And I sent her the picture. And when you put them side by side, it was like Lucky was from heaven reaching out. It was really cool. There's a lot of stuff happened. And the one person I went to, I did go to an animal psychic, and that was a waste of money, because she was terrible. That was in my grief. And then I stopped. I believe Lulu is a Westie Maltese Schnauzer, because her ears go like this. They're so cute. And then when she's listening, they move like little helicopters. And then she's got a real Westie face. And then she's got this kind of pretty, I don't think it's quite champagne-y. It really looks sort of like French vanilla to me, her coat. All right, now let's do our tarot card for Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay, we have the Nine of Wands, but it's reversed. The Nine of Wands is usually when you look at the Rider-Waite deck, you see a guy who's wounded, he's guarding himself, he's on alert. I feel like this is actually the opposite now. Maybe it's time not to be on alert. I know. CC Pups, I know. I wonder where we're going with this, because Pisces is such a mutable sign that sometimes when I see a Nine of Wands upside down saying you don't have to guard yourself, I'm wondering, well, you don't have to guard yourself from your creativity, from your dreams. Remember, the North Node is moving through your first house and potentially through your 12th house, okay, depending again on your rising sign degree. You've got Neptune and Saturn at the end of this house, right? Very much moving towards your second house, potentially part of your first house, because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend. Don't descend back to where you've been. This could be where you were guarded, where you were afraid, where you didn't want to feel criticism or something, because there's movement afoot. Now, in the opportunity or the obstacle, this is about being gentle with yourself as you step deeper and deeper into your dreams. Because, I want to offer this. Every person who gets close to what they want, whether it's a relationship, a job, they start to squirrel. They start to get nervous because we aren't trained to receive abundance without some sort of strife, stress, or struggle. Because now it's a time to observe your willingness to receive bounty, to be gentle with yourself as you are recalibrating something. And if that recalibration is putting yourself first over others, or over other people's agenda, that's a little something that gets to take place. Because as you step closer and closer into what makes you feel vital, makes you feel expansive, makes you feel cherished within your world, okay, then you yourself have that to give. Because in the angel's advice right now, your faith is not anchored and your transformation is not anchored yet. And I want to offer it this way, because this is not about guarding yourself against other people. It's about dropping your guard on your talent, on whatever your creative, whatever your love bubble is, whatever your dream boat is. In the final position, we have the Truth card and we have Celeste saying that you're moving to a new home or a new place of employment. Now, interestingly enough, I'm sure you guys remember, whenever I see Celeste, it's never about a physical move for me, because I take my emotional body and my mental body with me everywhere I go. So whatever I believe, I take it over here to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I take it to, Waikiki Beach, whatever. So here is a shift to your deeper truth. Here is where you no longer need to guard yourself, because as you are diplomatic with yourself and allow that deeper truth to anchor in as an act of love, not only for yourself, but for those around you, things will start to feel more authentic, feel more, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. Exactly. People think if they change something physically that it will change something internally, and that is true, but not just planting yourself from one box to another box. It's an experience of moving up and out a little bit, moving, like when you see when I did rock climbing the first time, I was scared to death, but boy, when I was done, I was higher than a kite on what I'd accomplished. That's an experience that helps. I looked up Havanese when I was looking at dogs. The vet always compartmentalizes her as a Maltese. She's spicy though, so she could have a little Cuban flavor to her. Because isn't a Havanese? Yeah, Cuban. She's a little spicy, and I like that about her, because she's not spicy to be mean. She's spicy because she has her own opinions and thoughts. Okay, let's go on to our Aries rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, I keep wanting to start with the tarot. Why am I'm so habitual? Do y'all mind if I take one little quick break and grab her and just show you to her one more time? Because she's so cute. Lou, come here, honey. Come see the peeps. There was only a few. I know, you're so cute. Come here. Come here. Oh. She loves to have her belly rubbed, and she's a pancaker. So everybody say hi to Lulu one more time, because I don't know if you've seen her yet. Okay. Here she is. Look into the cameras. I'm the cutest puppy, cutest girl dog. She's very, very sweet. Show them your ears. Usually they sit up like this. Lulu, let me see. Show your ears. They go like this. They're up like this, like little helicopters. But when you pick her up, she's very docile. She's very, and she's a lickers. She's a lickers. Are you a licker? Yeah. Poor thing's been through a lot. Okay, everybody, we're going to go on to our Aries. Sweet girl. Here we go. Okay, her currency is she loves to play. I got her squeaky ball. She loves it. Okay, Aries, let's see what's going on with you. Poor Aries, I must say. Because you have the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn, and then there's that late degree. She's much lighter than Lucky. Actually, Lucky was gray. She's very whitey and caramely colored, but they do look a lot like them. Same long legs, same similar kind of face. Her eyes are a little bit, look like she has eyeliner on them. Oh, Aries, rising sun and stellium. Wow, posted up. There's a lot going on. But, I think that, I have my South Node. French vanilla, yeah, I think that's really who she is. Or maybe even hazelnut creamer, like Coffee Mate hazelnut creamer. But her head's definitely whiter than her body. So this is what I want to say, because I really believe that the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune is birthing the spiritual warrior. And this is a way that the spiritual warrior knows the connection to the divine. It knows how to focus, and how warriors to me are very instinctual. You can't go in and plan everything. You've got to be able to sort of, see out the corner of your eyes for danger. So I think that this is where we're moving into an age where the erosion of the self will no longer be accepted by the individual human, but rather they will call upon spirit to bring forth experiences that represent the soul incarnate on earth. She has that dark eyeliner. Yeah, I think she's a little. I think she's a mixie. I would like to get a little DNA test done on her, because she's no gray in her, and schnauzers are gray. I've never seen a white. Oh, hi, Georgia. I've never seen a white schnauzer, but her ears are just a little bit darker. But when in the sunshine, they look pink. And she always pancakes. She's and rolls over on her back. She likes to have her belly rubbed. She falls asleep. I'm very pleased that as a rescue dog, I don't think she's ever been abused. She doesn't act like that at all. Really? Full Maltese? I don't know. All right, our tarot card for our Aries. The Wheel of Fortune, but it's upside down. So let's see what this is going. The Wheel of Fortune is about things that change, circumstances that change, conditions that change. Upside down, it would say conditions maybe aren't favorable. We have the Bee, which is about victory, industriousness, and your being energy. Here's the Indriel, the light worker. We have Astera reversed, and the Raven, which is about timing. We have the King upside down and Mystique. And then we have Bethany and the Hawk. This is a very interesting thing. If we think about the idea that Neptune and Saturn are traversing the world axis, right? They're in the last degrees of Pisces, which is an opportunity to transcend our thoughts, transcend our old experiences, to have an awareness of them, because the awareness of them is how we actually transcend. So we don't step into inadvertent fog or blurry lines anymore. This to me looks like Aries, with Chiron being at the latter degrees right now of Aries, and Saturn and Neptune floating on the world axis. You are asked to being halt, to slow it down. And Aries doesn't want to slow down. Aries wants to get past everything as quickly as possible, especially whatever is distasteful. But here the being energy is not aligned. Somewhere you're still caught in your muggleness, and you have to align to your light, to how you're shining your light. Because while Astera says to reach for the stars, the Raven is saying that there's timing. It's not time, because you're not reaching for the stars. The idea of Saturn bringing up history, and the idea that Aries rising could potentially have a huge 12th house influence, right? depending again upon the degree and the planets involved. You're going to feel an old story showing up again, and one you may find so much frustration on because you're like, I've been working on this, I've been working on this. But what you haven't thought about, Aries, is maybe you're the soldier that has gone into a situation with one of your comrades. What do you call them when you go into battle with, the team, with your troops, with your, God damn, I can't think of the word, because maybe this isn't as much about you anymore, but you standing in service of someone else, because the king is upside down and Mystique is saying to charge forward. This makes me think something's out of balance. The king pertains to male energy and pertains to things having to do with justice and the law. Somewhere here, you may inadvertently be feeling a little victimized by a story, or by a script that's been read over and over again. One of the things I get is, Teri, don't yell at me. I'm never yelling at you. When I'm yelling at you, I will literally tell you, I am yelling at you and I am mad now. Otherwise, I'm just passionate. So I get to rewrite that story. Because is it really me, or is it the other person who gets to flatten out their victim story? Because somewhere you got to start to take care of yourself. You're not looking at things and you're not looking at your own involvement. The hawk is about omens and signs and seeing things from above. And oftentimes when we get into shit, pardon my language, don't pardon it, we just think it's all about us having to go through something again. But maybe it's not. Maybe this time it's about using our new skills in a similar situation so that we actually can feel our own evolution, feel our own incorporation of an old story that didn't work, but now it does. Because now I know and I'm doing things with intention. I'm aware of my being energy and whether or not my light is shining. That's the hardest part about being an Aries and a Scorpio. Hey, you're so angry. You're so angry. Somebody's got to be angry. Somebody's got to hold the fire. Otherwise, we'll all drown and everybody else is. No. Why would you just start running out of nowhere? Was there someone chasing you? Why would you imagine that you ate shit? All right, on to our Tauruses. Well, I talk a lot about Aries. I think it's my moon in Taurus that actually makes me so loud and preachy. Taurus rules the voice, okay? Oh. And, while Taurus may be known to be slow and stubborn, Taurus is the bull with all the bush coming out. Oh, intrusive thoughts. I don't like intrusive thoughts. All right, Taurus, let's see what's happening. I just heard Carly Simon in my head singing Sometimes I Wish, Often I Wish. It's an old song about knowing the secrets of your lover. We have no secrets. We tell each other everything. All right, let's see where we're going, Taurus. I do think intrusive thoughts are oftentimes anxiety between a new and an old story. I used to always have dreams about like being moved out of my house or being moved into a garage. And when I would look it up in dream interpretation books, it was always people trying to change my mind and the way that I thought about things. And that made sense. All right, Taurus. The Page of Pentacles is upside down. This is the card of the dreamer. In the material, okay? Starting to bring things into a place that fulfills the whole story. When I look at this particular deck, almost all the characters have some kind of light around them, especially the wands. But this to me is like, it's dreaming with the full bloom. You see that sunflower? And allowing yourself to stop and imagine. And because it was inverted, you're not doing that. That's what it's saying. because Taurus rules history. Taurus can be practical. Taurus can move slowly. And Taurus, because there's a sense of loyalty and that sense of history, Taurus will need reassurance oftentimes. All right. So here we have for my Tauruses, the fear card is upside down and the angel of tranquility and peace is here. If you turn, rather than look to where you've been, but instead look to the future, Taurus, what do I want? What is working for me? You'll start to alleviate maybe some, this feels like historic fear. This feels like I don't know. It feels like almost, I'm trying to think of an example. My dad used to always say, money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't grow. And of course, my smart ass was like, well, it's paper. It does technically grow on trees. And then he would roll his eyes. But my point is that there's something that's an old story somewhere that's coming up. And you may think that it doesn't, that it's clipping you somehow from seeing even a bigger, deeper picture. And I need you to go deeper. Merlin is offering justice, balance, and alchemy, but you've got to keep charging ahead, even though you can't see the results. Mystique is about miracles. Miracles are literally alignment to a deeper truth of what you want to experience. Maya is about schooling and education. And here is the spider. The spider is an interesting card for me because it's a relational card for me. Oftentimes I see that fly that goes into the spider's web and never comes out. I think that this is really indicating that there is a network here of things. And when you put in what you want into that network, meaning the universe, you start to learn balance and alchemy and potential. But Taurus isn't going to do that because I don't have that much money in the bank. I don't know. And here's the card of history. The novice is upside down, and so is Astera. So this is what I want to say for my Tauruses. You might be trying to hold on to something. You might be trying to hold on to a structure, an idea, a thought, because you just don't know where you're going or how it'll play out. But this is where the rubber meets the road, and where Uranus's transit has been so powerful in liberating you from old things. I think it's time, rather than trying to figure out how it's going to show up, just kind of hop, skip, and a jump to what it feels like, right? It feels easy. It feels flowy. It feels natural. And in that respect, I think you can start to tell a new story. One of the thing about the Taurus energy is it actually is quieter. So a lot of these things internalize. A lot of the fears internalize. A lot of the lack of motion internalizes. And sometimes in the male energy, we'll see that even more obviously because, sometimes Taurus men will have women who they'll actually inadvertently get talkers, women who like to, and they internalize. So balance comes when you continue to kind of recognize fear, but then move towards whatever brings you peace and move towards the more succinctly. This is how I roll. I feel at peace. I feel flow. I feel things are easy. I never try to name the scenario. Hello, Sinister Days. So good to see you. Welcome. We're on to our Geminis now, and we're headed towards our Libras, and then we'll be done for the day. We got a little ways to go. I'm glad to see everybody here. All right, here we go, Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. She's so cute. She's so thin. She only weighs 11 pounds. All right, Gemini, let's see what our tarot card is for you today, for this week. And again, I want to really bring up and remind y'all the 11th and the 12th. No, the 12th and the 13th could be very hot days. Mars and Mercury are going to be, Mercury's retrograding right over Mars. They've been traveling together. It really, honestly, could be argumentative days when people are cranky on the road, don't get into any road rage. They're especially hot those days, I think, personally. All right, Gemini, your tarot card is the World, but it's reversed. This is a completion card in its normal. You can relax. It's in some ways a reward card. Some things are not completed yet. So what I would say here is that it's not easy for Gemini because Gemini often, considers all the possibility. I'm on Gemini, right? Yeah, okay. Because I almost feel like if you think something's over, it's not. And it's interesting. I don't know why I see this, but upside down in this pattern right here, do you see that where it looks like Oz? Do you see that? OZ. It could even look like a P2. Part 2, something's still happening. All right. There's the Truth card and Crystal saying have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. This is challenging for our mercurial people because they're wanting to see, they're wanting to calculate, they're wanting to plan, they're wanting to get information. The Truth card is now asking you to go into your heart because what you're wanting to see needs to have an infusion of faith and intention. The opportunity or the obstacle, we have Archangel Uriel dealing with anger and frustration, and then the letting go card is upside down. Something's coming up that's you're revisiting something. And I want to offer this because I don't like the letting go idea. I don't think it's possible. I think when things happen to humans, for the most part, you either stuff it or you ruminate over it. I don't know how many people actually authentically let something go. So for me, it's incorporation. And somewhere you're contemplating some sort of frustration. I think there's a part of you that wants to move something forward, but it's not moving. And let's see what the angel's advice is. Your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And there's the transformation to the swan. So somewhere you're going from that ugly duckling to the swan. And somebody in the chat even brought up that metaphor earlier in the chat. I don't know to what end. But so for my Geminis, probably, and I think, Small, you mentioned earlier, those, I don't want to say my anxiety, but, these intrusive thoughts, we always want to put that we never want to use the word mine, and own it in any way, because there's seriously a transformation being offered. We've got to anchor in something. Magic is about to happen. The Raven is saying that there's a certain timing to things, and the angels are bringing forth a solution. So whatever's going on, this ending there's no ending. And when I did this, I didn't mean it I didn't think it was a never ending bad story. I thought it was a good story. Something like, if a person is worried that their relationship is ending or their job is ending or something in their world is ending. And I look at that for some reason. The Wizard of Oz was on TV yesterday and I watched it just for a few minutes. I didn't watch the whole thing. And it just made me feel like that said Oz. And Oz is about magic and about clicking your heels. And what did Glinda say to Dorothy? You had the power the whole time. You had the power. Oh my God, I'm getting chills. Gemini, you have the power. Just do your best to keep yourself aligned to spirit. When you get frustrated, say to spirit, I need an experience. I need something that says, come on. It's okay. They understand. In much to popular demand, God does not expect us to be perfect, and there is no real sin. I mean, there's bad behavior, but if we're loved unconditionally, there can be nothing that we do that stops God's love. So there's no sin. Crows are so interesting. They're such loud little creatures, and they have the memory. Do you know the crows are as smart as a 3-year-old? Did I ever tell you my story about being in town and a crow was so annoying and I was in a cranky mood and I pulled a Harry Potter and I took to the crew and I shot a ball of energy up at it to try to get it to move. It freaking turned around and swooped me and chased me all the way down the damn street. I got scared. I started seeing the birds from the movie Alfred Hitchcock. I was like, they have memory. They remember you too. They do. Oh, they're scary, actually. I don't mess with the animal kingdom. It's very true. It will happen. And our job is to keep that communication going. All right, on to our Cancers, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's see where we're going. All right. What group is called murder? I missed that. Are these ravens and crows are too smart? What are they? Are they mating out there? I thought they were screaming at each other, at the hawks, to get away from their nests. A group of cows is a murder? I didn't know that. I've never heard of that. Oh, a group of, I never heard that either. That's a little scary. Okay, whoa. All right. Cancer. Your tarot card is the Ace of Pentacles. Now, this is interesting because it's inverted. So again, when the card's inverted, there's a thwarted beginning of some kind. Something that you're trying to plant into the material world is not ready for its planting. Let's see where we're going. Celeste says that there's a new home and a new place of employment opportunity, but then the Baird is here. And I want to offer this because you got to start to, I would think that this Baird is telling you to start to tell an enchanted story of some type of shift for yourself, some type of, and again, I have to repeat, Celeste for me is not necessarily a move in the physical. It's first a move in the emotional and spiritual that aligns into something. Because now we have a risk card and the marriage card of Daniel. Daniel does talk about assisting you with a marriage, but he very much talks about history and the focus of history. We have Celeste and the Baird talking about a focus of history. Cancer rules history by nature, okay, because it rules patriotism, it rules the home, it rules the traditions of the home, it rules the land you're born on. It's why, some people think eggs are disgusting for breakfast and other people think seaweed soup is disgusting for breakfast. Now, I say all this because this is about Cancer opening up emotionally. This is about starting to focus in on the self and looking at the self as something that facilitates the nurturing of others, because in the angel's advice is Bethany talking about self-care, and the serpent is talking about shedding a skin. It's talking about knowledge, and it's talking about balance, aka healing. And that has to do with when it comes to your partnerships with others and how you serve others before yourself. And if you're doing it in a way that if I don't do this, it's not going to happen, that's only breeding more and more anger and resentment. Cancer is the person, Cancer is the sign, and I'm sorry, I see patterns in people, so please don't take this the wrong way, but they give what they want to get. I don't know that they always see what the other person needs. And sometimes it creates a problem because then they're not getting back what they need. And so here, Serena, who's talking about abundance versus resentment. So I think maybe there's a little recalibration. And maybe before you try to start to shift other situations in your life. Start taking care of you on the interior. What do I need for me today? And risking that partnership with the self, getting to know thyself better. I would think that Cancer and maybe even Pisces, it can be two of the signs that the most have trouble identifying themselves, because they identify with their role in nurturing other people or empathizing with other people or being there for others. And while that is a beautiful thing and celebrated in the Muggle world, it is a drain a long term, because oftentimes the other party, especially if they're your children, don't have any wherewithal they just assume it. So it is very important that you take care of yourself and, start to look at where you might be harboring some feelings of old because you're not getting an even exchange of energy. It's funny too, because sometimes people think, what I've experienced with Cancer is that they can love too much, and it can almost feel like the other party feels too drowned or too obligated in loving that person the way that person has set up the dynamic. And then it always carries like a boomerang somewhere. And then the Cancer person really can feel, because the Cancer person can be so loving that you don't want to hurt their feelings, but then it becomes something out of balance. It's hard. It's a hard thing. It's not always, you got to look at the other aspects. Not every Cancer is like this, but you put some Cancer energy, some fixed energy, and maybe throw a little more nurturing energy in there from another sign, and it can be a little bit of a recipe for disaster. Because the best thing you could do is represent how you love you, and then that brings in much more of the love you want from other people. Thank you, Posted Up. I really appreciate that. My channel hasn't made any money in a long, well, it has never made a lot of money, but it hasn't made any money in a long time. So I appreciate that. All right, let's go on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now, Leo rising is a precarious spot, because when you look in Placidus, I really, really am resistant to whole sign the more I do this, because if you're a 20-degree rising sign, most of that Leo's in the 12th house of the invisible, the unseen, the house of self-undoing. And that's a huge karmic shift, in some way. It's not that the same Leo that you throw everything in the first house. Because I think for my Leos, when I'm feeling there's that opposition to Pluto right now, really digging deeper into what is coming from, what is really deep in your heart, and what do you want to express? Where do you need to stand on a stage? And I don't mean it in need because it's an obligation. I mean it because it's something your soul is calling forth. And sometimes the stage is just a stage of one, but let's see where we're going. Because Pluto's calling forth something, and I don't think it's the demolition of your ego, but maybe even the expansion of your ego, so that you can start to connect to the exciting God opportunities. I have a client who's got a strong stellium in Leo, but a lot of it's pushed into the 12th house. And that person, gets accused of being selfish, but actually is not very selfish at all. It's the others in their life that are pushing an agenda. And I say this because I think Leo gets to start to redefine how people have power and control over them. And those that are part of our pack will use our story, our history, or our vulnerabilities sometimes without even knowing they're doing it. So it becomes even more important to have an awareness of what's us and what's them, so we don't villainize them, but we move towards us. It also makes Pisces your 8th house. And I think that's important to know, because, here there is this stretching to have a better, more aligned, empathetic experience with others. And that makes Virgo your second house. And that's where you're letting go of processes or of, anywhere you've been enslaved to a certain, I'm not perfect enough or I'm not good enough. My dad, I was thinking about this morning. My dad was a Virgo and he had Neptune on his sun. And he's been gone since 2011. My niece, his granddaughter, had a baby. And Virgo is the South Node. South Node represents your soul's history and your habits. And I wonder if there's a part of my dad's soul that is incarnated to his granddaughter, because that configuration won't happen again for 18 years. 12 plus 6, yeah. So and it hasn't happened since he passed away. He's been gone like 15 years, and I wonder if he waited because that South Node is indicative of who he was in this lifetime, which was actually quite a critical person, but a very sinister critical, because you didn't know what was happening. He's the guy that smiled to your face and got in the car and told his wife how much he hated you. Maybe he didn't say hate. That might not be fair. But he definitely put on a show a little bit. All right, Leo. I have random weird stories out of nowhere. Ooh, the Hierophant. I love it. In this particular deck, there is a commitment, okay? A stubborn commitment to what is true to you. This Taurus energy is about skills. It's about talent. It's about using your talent, using your voice. The Hierophant also represents, that has that bit of that spiritual, religious feel to it. In another deck, there's like a pope or a religious figure, and there's a crown of stars. And I think that this is super important to be almost, when we look at this man, this character, there's nothing else he can truly see except what he's focused, this bull. And that bull is representing that Taurus, that voice, that self-expression, that creativity. Venus rules Taurus. She rules that, jewelry makers and cabinet makers. And, there's so many things in that second house. So there's something about committing to what's important to your heart. Here's Celeste offering a shift in the way you're thinking and a lot of abundance and good things that come from it. Now, there's an interesting thing that this shift is not about I'm in abundance. It's starting to think in abundance. I also think that the bull and the cow kind of go together. So this could have something to do with money as well. We have Merlin and Athena upside down. So somewhere you're not seeing your magic, somewhere you're not connecting to your power. That's if the foundational position is indicating a shift in the way you're thinking. And more Leo, we need you to focus in on your talent, have that courage, have that heart. The opportunity here is to recognize where you're not doing that. So I want to offer it this way, because sometimes people go, I'm doing this, I'm doing it, but they're doing it in frustration, or they're doing it in, time is taking too long. And that is not truly alignment. It's not truly alignment to abundance. In the angel's advice, there's romance in the form of literally the reignition of romance or something new coming in. I think this has more to do with what you love, what you want. Not all of us are in an age where we're looking for romance. Some of us are looking for something different. So now it's time to start to see how God is watching over you, to start to be more observant of what am I creating? Does it have the magic? Because I could be, it may not right now. There's a weird feeling of having to devote myself beneath the surface of what I'm seeing. Final position is the King and Bethany. Bethany is about self-care, and the King is the law. The law this is truly for my Leos to thrive the way they want to. It's about allowing for a shift to see the universe as abundant, and as, when you ask for something and you focus on it, you start to open up opportunities to step through that energy. And each gate that you walk through opens up a bigger story for you to receive and to anchor in what it is that you actually want. And that's why Spirit is saying, don't let your stubbornness, your fixed energy thwart your power and your magic. You've got to keep your eye on the prize of what you love. Not who you love, what you love. Okay. The only thing on her that's straight is her tail, and it slightly has a little wiry feel to it. It's not as soft as her coat. But yeah, I just paid $200 to have her teeth cleaned, and then I had to pay for her shots, and I had to pay for her visit, and then I had to pay for Lucky to pass away. And I haven't been working as much because I cry all the time, so I'm broke. Oh, did I say that? I'm not in flow, but I am back in the river, and the boat is starting to leave the shore. Oh, that's right. Small wildflowers. Yeah, I've had that problem too. Did someone send you something and they put small wildflowers on it? So annoying. You'll have to reveal yourself. All right, we're on our last sign. No, second to the last sign. Yeah, I have to watch my verbiage sometimes, even for myself, especially when I'm feeling so much pummeling. All right, we're on to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, and then Libra, and we're done. And I'll be back next week, believe it or not. I can't. Yes, I have a rescue dog. Her name is Lulu. She's 5 years old, and she showed up under the most interesting cosmic circumstances. And I'll take Teri. Teri. All right, Virgo, here we go. I like how good she is with work. She had one day, I think Sunday, I think her foster mom wore a special perfume, and I think she smelled it because she got a whiff of something. She was totally fine and normal. And then she got a whiff of something, and she was going back and forth from the front door to the slider. And she did a little whining. It took her like an hour to calm down, maybe a little longer. I just kind of ignored her. I just let her do her thing. I was a client. I couldn't. And so I don't know, but she's fine now. I just have to get her to think of me as her person. She still thinks she's at the doggy daycare, I think, where they have really good treats. She does like the treats. All right, here we go. Virgo, what is your tarot card for the week? Now, I want to say this because Mercury, is known as your ruler. But I really think that Christopher Witecki's onto something by thinking Chiron rules Virgo. And I'm buying into that more and more. But for technical purposes, we're going to say, be mindful that Mercury is retrograding because Mercury is exalted in Virgo. So we still see a strong mercurial energy. I don't take the exaltation away from it. But I do think Chiron, because Virgo rules health, it makes more sense. All right, we've got the 2 cups here, but it's upside down. Now, this deck is interesting to me because the characters are depicted as very different. Obviously, we see they're of a different race, but they bring something to the table. This could be the challenge for Virgo, okay, is that because you rule process and you rule analyzing things and you rule doing things to a perfection, you may not see or feel that there's an exchange of energy, or sometimes if I don't do it myself, it won't get done properly. We have the communications card in the form of Archangel Gabriel, which is also to me very much a Virgonian energy, and the letting go card. Oftentimes, Archangel Gabriel talks about insecurities. Here, I would think that they're talking potentially about Virgo allowing yourself to step away from something, like delegate and then step away from it, because you're going to overtax yourself if you continue to do everything. You've got to start to allow people to do things either for you or around you. Archangel Raphael is here, the angel of healing, the angel. And this is interesting too, because we've got the spider, spider's not coming as relationships to me. It's coming as having a relationship with my body, with my own healing. Oh, Virgo. I wonder. Oh, okay. this is about whatever's been going. Okay, Virgo South Node. All right. I'm not a Virgo rising, but Virgo is my 5th house. And that has to do with my entertainment, my fun, my pets, how I roll. This is about coming into some sort of awareness that you are carrying a heavier load of something, either your brain or maybe even how you're going through the processes. I've got to let go of what, or I've got to start to incorporate new processes of some kind that allow, and it could be meditative processes, it could be self-talk, because Archangel Raphael is offering a healing, but I've got to connect and I've got to sort of be more aware of supportive energies that can help me. In the angel's advice is Bethany, the self-care card, and then the connection to the angelic realm is upside down. You must be too much in your earth energy and not connecting enough to spirit. And that the idea that maybe this is the relationship, because here's the high priestess straight up, and then Francesca saying, what do you visualize right now? And I think that the high priestess has to do with vision. So there's something about visualizing yourself as coming into balance. Visualize yourself as seeing an even exchange, or at least potentially more even exchange of energy. When it comes to healing, I think it's about starting to think of it as being in balance versus as we've been trained to think that healing comes sometimes from outside ourselves, but it really comes from a co-creative interior conversation that is then supported by outside influences. So this is about coming together. And I think more than anything, it's about coming together with spirit and being aware of your self-talk and being aware of how you put whatever is imbalanced outside of yourself. So it's the situation, the person, the dynamic versus my sister, my situation, my blah, blah, blah. All right, let's go to our final sign, Libra. Did you know that Benjamin Franklin didn't even join the revolution until he was 67 years old? And that Washington, all those pictures you see of George Washington when you think he's like a 60-year-old man, he was only in his 30s, maybe 32. It's so interesting to watch this stuff, I got to tell you. Because the thing I took away from the Benjamin Franklin thing, because he traveled to France, he was not just sitting and, pontificating things. So I was thinking about, I've talked a lot about people thriving in later years, blossoming, experiencing things they hadn't experienced up until now. And I think that's a little bit of a muse and a sign for me, is that this man who had accomplished so much and had world renowned, if it wasn't for Benjamin Franklin going to France and being like the George Clooney of America, okay, because nobody knew about anybody else except Benjamin Franklin, because he's the man that tamed lightning. That dynamic, if we can start to think, wow, I'm not 67 yet. I don't know. I just think it's opening up of something. Oh, I have Origins Red CC Pups as some of the treats. I'm giving him or her right now Instinct Lamb. I have the Badlands Ranch little freeze-dried kibble. What I do is I feed her about a quarter to a third of a cup of wet food, raw food in the morning with her 2 mushrooms, the one for her joints and the one for her immune system. And then I put this little dental powder on the food and an ice cube of goat's milk. She gets that in the morning, and then in the afternoon she gets a puzzle where there's a quarter cup of kibble but it's not kibble, it's freeze-dried whatever. And then she gets a couple of treats before bed. And so far she's doing really good on that. She's doing good, I think. Oh, I will have to watch the musical. I love musicals. I really do. I like to sing along with them. All right, Libra, here we go. What was a good and a crappy birthday I had this year. I've had 3 really crappy birthdays in a row. I'm not having any more after this. I'm going to stop at 66. Route 66, it's a whole new highway. All right. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, MK. You know, the war also started in 1776. It didn't end for years, not until 1880 something. It was a long ass situation. Most people I think that ended in, for some reason. I don't know how much people know their actual history. All right, Libra, let's see where we're going. It's only been a couple of weeks, but it's been very different. All right. The confusion is lifting. The fog is lifting. The moon is here. The moon is a card of confusion. It's uncertain. It's blurry. It's where you can't see the road. You gotta go dig deep. So here for my Libras, I would think, and this is the interesting thing because the the Jupiter and Cancer energy squares Libra and Aries. So there could be something that's being revisited a little bit. And I say that because the moon is ruled by Pisces, and Pisces co-ruler is Jupiter. We have the Queen and Astera in the foundational position. We have Maya, and the wrist card is upside down. We have the Eagle and Vanessa. And then we have the Wasp and Celeste. Something's coming into clarity. Maybe for my Libras, they're finally, kind of getting to a point where they're recognizing that true balance comes from ebb and flow and sitting in their energy of reception. The Queen to me is very much a relaxed energy. It's very Venusian. Astera is asking us to step up our game. I say "our" because I'm a Libra sun. This is speaking to me of feeling more abundant. I feel like the square from Cancer to Libra is sort of this dynamic again of Cancer representing the home, the traditions, the way I was raised, the things I've come to believe. And now Libra is saying, but wait, is there balance somewhere? Is there another story? Is there another perspective? Because here, Maya talking about schooling and education feels like it was how I was raised. It feels like it's how I was, taught to believe certain things about myself. The oldest child, especially the oldest girl, is often, when siblings show up, raised to be mommy's little helper. And then that becomes ingrained into mommy's little helper, becomes how you show up in life to create value. Somewhere it's risking to learn something different, to allow the fog or the illusions, the deceptions to clear. Because the Eagle is here, and here's the Faith card. And I believe that this is, again, when we look at people who are under the sign of cooperation in some way, the nurturing signs, we're looking at people who depend a lot on their value through what they give to others. And Libra is the sign of partnership and creating harmony and creating peace. But that peace begins with me. Hi, Betty. So wonderful to see you. Welcome to the room. We're just finishing up today. So I think that the angels are really saying, have faith in your integrity of what you have learned. And it's not as big a risk as you think it is to step into that energy. Because Celeste is very much wanting, the shadow side of Libra is passive aggressiveness. It's sort of smiling to your face and then, talking shit behind your back. This Wasp feels like it's calming down any old stories because I'm shifting the way I'm thinking. I'm starting to be the queen in my own life. During this transition that I've been going through this year, and especially in the last couple of weeks, I had kind of forgotten some of my tools, like I would go to bed at night listening to Abraham and listening to things that, would promote my abundance. And I stopped doing that. And I just recently re-engaged into one of the videos. Everything's always working out for me. Everything's always working out for me. And this particular video goes into the idea of flow and ease. And that's what I want. I don't need to identify to the universe the particulars of what is that ease or flow. But calling that forth is a big enough of an umbrella to allow me to fill in the details later. Because I really think that that's what this is about. Saturn and Jupiter in Libra conjunct is really, Saturn in Libra is exalted. That's important to remember, because here Saturn sticks and has a huge commitment. And Jupiter is looking for fairness and balance. Jupiter rules the judicial system. So here, this isn't just about expansion and contraction. It's about implementing beliefs on a sustained and disciplined level to create the harmony and the peace that you want within your relationships with others. And then depending upon the other aspects, there could be more specifics going on there. Okay. We did it. We made it. All of us as a whole, except for Stephen. If Stephen's listening in playback. Oh, rough. It's been like, I don't even know. Rough feels like just such a weird word to me. I have gotten bogged down. Sometimes when I get bogged down myself, my tools, I go to the market and I buy chocolate chip cookie dough, and like I had a sugar thing happen the other day where I just could not get enough sugar. I had to have a cookie here and some ice cream. I went to Trader Joe's and I got those vanilla bonbons with the Oreo cookie. The ones that you buy and I'll just have one. I'll just have one more. I'll just have one more. And the next, all 12 are gone. I had that happen. I hadn't been to Trader Joe's for years. I went a little crazy. All right, darlings. Small Wildflowers, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being such a good friend to me during this transition and holding my hand when you're walking through so much on your own. You have no idea how much I appreciate all of that. So we'll be back next week. Small, do you have your appointment tomorrow morning? Are we on? Is tomorrow when you start your 2-week cycle? Anyway, yeah, okay. So we'll see how you do. Small may not be able to make it with us next week. We'll see. Send her lots of prayers and love. Yeah, chemo's tomorrow. I don't like to use that word in that depressing damn room that they sit you in. But so we'll keep our good thoughts this week for you. And I love you all. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a struggle sometimes when I don't just need a week, but I'm starting to need, it's just been a really crazy year for me. So I really appreciate y'all being here. And I want to thank so much for the donation. I really appreciate that. Keeps the channel moving. So we'll see you next week, everybody. I love ya. Peace out.